Good afternoon, everybody. So let's just have a look at the agenda for today. So what we're looking at in the first part of this session is standard reporting capabilities in Business One, right? So what's out of the box. So you're talking about writing SQL queries, writing crystal reports. We'll then also jump into the web client because with the new version 10 web client, there is a bunch of analytical capabilities. And then just a very quick overview of HANA reporting capabilities. And this is, more relevant to those who've got the HANA version of Business One. And then we'll hand over to Jacinta, who will talk about Power BI and how you can do advanced visualizations and use interactive dashboards. And that's obviously not a standard SAP Business One feature, but something a bit more advanced and something if you're interested in, then we can have further discussions. And then finally, we're just quickly introducing this B2B integrated payments with Visa, and a bit more about that later in the session today. So let's start by looking at the query reports. So firstly, let me jump into SAP Business One. Here we go. And you'll notice on my system, I've got a bunch of dashboards in the background. Now, these are BOEM dashboards. Okay, these are not standard SAP, so we won't be covering too much about what BOEM dashboards are. We've done a webinar in the past. If you're interested in BOEM dashboards, you can go have a look at that webinar. But if you've got the B1 usability pack from BOEM, then certainly you should activate these dashboards and have a look at what already comes out of the box. What you're seeing here is just out of the box dashboards. But back to the topic today, which is standard SAP reporting and specifically around queries. So, and I'm sure most of you would have been running queries in your day-to-day operations. So, if you go into the query manager or if you go from tools, queries, either way, you can see a bunch of queries that someone's written for you. Okay, so of course you can go in and you can then run the query and you can get an output and then you can use that output, export that to Excel and so on. What we're going to touch on is how you actually create those queries and give you a bit of a basic overview of how that's done. So you go under Tools, Queries, and Query Generator. Now there is also this concept here called Query Wizard, which is more of a step-by-step method of writing queries within SAP, but the Query Generator also is fairly intuitive interface. So if I'll open that up, you get this window, and there's a few different sections here. So the first part here is where you can select the tables you want to report on. The second part shows the fields that have been that are part of the tables you've selected. And then the third section here is where you sort of start building the query extract. So, a query is made up of a select statement. So what fields we're picking from, which tables we're picking the fields from. Then you've got a where clause, which is your filter to say, what data we want to output. And then you've got some sorting and grouping. So how do we get the tables into the query generator? So there's this on the top left of the generator, there's a field here. In here, you can go in, hit the tab key, and then you get a listing of all the database tables. Right, and then from there, you can sort of scroll down and look at all the different tables. Now, the easiest way to know what table your data lives in within SAP is if you open up a screen, and let's say I'll just open up the item master screen. And if you go into your menu system and go view and set the system information, check that box. Then whenever you hover your mouse over a field, on the bottom left corner, you'll see the name of the table and the field name. So down here in the status bar area, so when I hover my mouse over the item number field, you'll see that it says OITM and item code. Or if I go on to the next field, it'll say OITM.item name. Or if I go to the item group, it'll say OITM, ITMS, GRP code. So these are all database tables, so table names or field names. So in my case, I want OITM, so I can just type that there and hit the tab key, and that loads up all the tables, sorry, all the fields that are in that table. Now I can also, if I had brought up the full list, I could have typed in here OITM and got the name from there, or if I didn't really know the table name, I could, you know, sort by description and then try and find it as well. So there's a few ways of finding it, and what I'm really after is the item. So let's grab that, and then let's say I want to get the item code, the item name, and then maybe the item group and the quantity on hand. Right, so those are the fields I've got on. So I've got the select, I've got what table it's coming from, and let's just click on the execute button. That will output all the products in my database. And I don't have a very large database, so it's pretty safe, but please be careful when you're running it in your own environment. If you've got a lot of products or a lot of transactions in the system and you just ran it without any filtering, it could, impact other users. You could have a performance issue on the system. So if you are new to this, if you're going to be playing around, probably the best thing would be to do it on a test database first before you get a bit more comfortable and confident in terms of doing this. So we've got my output now. I don't, maybe I want to put a filter in. I want to just see items, but firstly, my item group, right? So when I look at my item, the item group says JB printers. However, the output is showing a number. So why is that? That's because that number is sitting in another table. Now, how do I find out which table it is in, and how can I get the grouping item group name in here? Well, there's a little trick here. So on the list of fields, you'll see that certain fields have got it got a slightly bolder font. And these are fields that have got a link to another table, right? So not everything all data can't just live in one table. It has to go to other tables as well. So in this case, it's in the item groups. And if I drag and drop that onto the table section, it automatically loads that in there for me, the link table. And it also created the extra join for me, right? So I can see the join, it's joined on a certain field, and I can now go in and let's say I want to put the item group name, and I do that. And so now I get the item group name. And then the next thing I want to do is, let's say I want to only show items that belong to the group JB printers, right? I don't want to see everything else. So I can do that as well, and that's where the where clause comes in. So here I can go item group name equal to, and I put the group name. And if I execute that, then I only see that particular group. Now, that's a bit difficult. I mean, that's not very user-friendly. I don't want to go into my query each time and change this manually. I may want to run it and allow the user to select the grouping. Well, how do I do that? Well, there's that little button at the bottom here called conditions. Click on conditions, and then I can go in and use these variables that exist. So I can say item group name equal to, and I'll pick the first variable. So when I now run this, it now gives me a selection. And then from the selection, I can pick whichever group I want to run it for, and I get that output. So that's sort of the basics of generating a query. The other two things in here are the sorting. So if I wanted to sort the data, let's say by the item group, for example. So let's say I want to sort it by item group name. Let's get rid of the filter. When I do that, I now get the data sorted by the item group name rather than the item code. And then the final thing is the grouping. So how does that work? So if I wanted to, let's say, just show the total quantity on hand by item group, of course, I can get rid of the item number. So all I've got left now is the item group and the on hand. I can execute that. That's now showing me still showing one line per item, but it's not showing the item details. But I really want is one line per group. So how do I do that? I go in and say I want to group it by the item group name. Now, once I've done that, I've also got to put a special keyword in front of the field that I'm trying to sum, and that's the on-hand field. So I put a sum around it, and then I can say, let's say field name, call it total, and then I execute it. So now I've got one line per item group and the total quantity on hand in each one of those. One other little trick, if you're ever running a query and you want to see a total of a column, you just hold the control key down and click, and you'll see automatically the total shows up. Of course, you can export this to Excel, you can go copy table and then paste it into Excel and all those things. So that's all still available as well. Once you finalize the query, you can save that, and you can go and save as, and then you can have different categories, you can create additional categories and so on, but I can just put it into this general one, give it a name and save it. And so once I've saved it, I can always come back through here and rerun that query. Now, what's also point worth noting is once you've kind of closed this query generator screen, you cannot get that back, right? Then all you're left with is the final query that has been generated as part of the process. And then if you have to amend it further, you'd have to type in here and use the actual syntax to do your query. But if you're trying to do just some basic extracts, such as extract your customer listing or item listing, you may even maybe invoices, so on. You can use these query generator to write those things and save them away. But just note that, just be careful when you're writing these, because for example, if you wrote a query, just going to be very quick. If I write a query, I don't put any selection, I just select a table and I go execute, it's going to return every field in the database for every item. Now that could be a lot of data. So that's where I was saying, be careful. You may end up, causing performance issues in your database. Okay, so that's the queries part. So the next topic we had around reporting is the Crystal reports. So Crystal reports been available within Business One as a reporting tool for quite some time now. It's almost probably 10 years. Prior to that, the way you used to do print layouts was using this tool called Print Layout Designer, PLD. That's the old way of doing things. The new way of doing things certainly for any printed documents within Business One is using Crystal Report, but you can also use Crystal to write your own reports and save them into the menu system. So, for some of you, you might have under sales reports, for example, there is a standard report here called monthly customer status. That should be in your database, and you can run this. And so let's say I'll just put a date range in, pick some customers, and run it. And that's running a Crystal report that's giving me a customer, and then detailed customer by customer on transactions. So it's just a Crystal report. So these are things that you can do. So as I said, it also is used for doing your print layouts. If I go into manage layout, so what I did there was I hit the pencil. Once I've opened a particular screen, I've hit the pencil, and then I've clicked on manage layout, and I've clicked on edit, or I click on edit. And what that'll do is open up the Crystal Layout Designer, right? So while we're waiting for that, so just give it a second or two. Should come soon. While we're waiting for that, the other thing is, if I wanted to look at what this looks like, I click on the print preview. And that should open up the preview of that layout. And let's say I want to amend this, right? I want to put some extra information in this sort of header section. You know, let's say maybe the status of the invoice. So how do I do that? So I've edited the layout. It's actually popped open in the background. So there is the Crystal Report Designer. Now, this obviously has to be installed on your system, you know, and typically it's installed on the server. So this will be accessible to anyone who's an administrator of the system, right? It's not, if you do need to do it as an end user, then you know it have to be installed onto your local PC or wherever you're accessing SAP from. But basically, the layout itself will have many sections. There's a report header, which is, you know, right at the beginning of the report. There's a page header, which is on big top of each page. Then you have the actual you know, the lines or the product details in this case, and then you have a footer area and page footer, as well as an overall report footer. So this is more, we're into the editing of the layout. And let's say, as I was saying before, I wanted to make some additional fields in this header area. Specifically, I want to, let's say, put in the document status, right? So now I can see here, these are all the tables that are being used inside this particular layout. And my item master, I've used the system information, and I know the invoice table. I'm using the system information. I know that's in the OINV table, so I can extend on that. And that's the field that I'm looking for, which is document status. So I can drag and drop that field on here, right? So I mean, you can do other things like it's almost like a WYSIWYG type layout. So you know, if I wanted to make a field a bigger font, if I wanted to change the font, I wanted to bold something, all of those things are available. But what I've done here is I've put the status in, and then let's say I want to put a text field in that gives a description. So I'm going to insert a text object. And then I draw it on there, and I can say status. And so that's there. But you can see that, you know, the way this layout's been designed, there's some different types of fonts used and some different colors and schemes. So I could just, you know, go in and copy the scheme, and I can then assign that to my field, and I can do the same on the other ones. I could copy that one and I can assign it there. So there's all this kind of things. So I've added this extra field, then I can go in, and let's say I can then go in and SAP Business One, and I can then save, right? And then this was the one I was editing. Let's say I just want to save this as a version 3. And that's trying to now save that back. It's done it. If I come into SAP now, that's my version 3 layout, file, preview layout, and I'll pick my version 3. And there's the status. Now, of course, you know, you might want to say, instead of C for closed, you might want to put the full description in. So I mean, there's further capabilities within Crystal Layout Designer to do all those types of things. So that's one part of it. The other part is that you may want to also, let's say, create a new report from scratch. So you can go new standard report. You can select where your data is coming from. Once again, you know, you need to know the passwords for the database access, otherwise you wouldn't be able to do this. So you need some level of administrative privileges, going in and picking the tables. Now, let's say I want to do a report on open purchase orders. So I know my tables are OPOR, and let's say POR1. Right, so that's two tables that I want to report against. I go into the next field now, and here I need to be a bit more aware of what the joins are. So I know there's a join between doc entry to doc entry, but it's also automatically joined some other things that I really don't want. So I'm going to get rid of those. Right, so I've got my basic join, and if you really weren't sure, the best way to figure out what the right joins would be to go into the query generator, and you go OPOR and POR1, and it's telling you the join is on doc entry to doc entry, right? So that's a little tip there. So we've done the join, and now let's see what fields I want to display. I want to display the document number. I want to display the document date, the due date, the customer code, the customer name on the header area, and then on the lines, I want to see, let's say, the item code, the item description, and the open quantities. So the quantities that haven't been delivered yet. So what I'm trying to do is show a bit of a back order report from a purchasing perspective. How do I want to group the data? Let's say I want to show by customer. Right. And then I probably want to do a bit of a sum. So I want to see totals of the open quantity. Next. And so I want to see what type of group ordering. I want to see just, no, not top 5 or anything like that. I just want to see a total. Don't want to see any charts. You can insert charts as well. And then what fields do I want to filter on? Well, if I want to just see open orders, then I want to make sure that I only see things where the line status is equal to open, right? So I don't want to see any closed ones. And let's just pick a standard template that comes in the system so that we've got something. So I picked this template and I click finish. So that's built a bit of a basic report for me. It looks terrible. It's not formatted nicely. It's all over the place. Now I can go and start updating it and getting it in the layout I want. So I've got my customer name. So I don't really need customer name in the bottom section. I've got my document number. I want to move that up. Don't really want to see that. Sorry, actually, I'll leave the document number there. There's the card code. I don't really need that. I've got the item code. So I can just move the document number across and just quickly get the doc date across, get the doc due date across, get the item code, get the item description, and the open quantity. So let's just quickly preview that now. Starting to look a bit better, but I see my dates look a bit funny. So let me fix that. So I pick both my date fields, go into format objects, date and time, and I just want a date, no time. So okay, that. I preview that now. Looking better again. And then I need a couple of headers there for the descriptions. So I go in and let's easily copy that, paste it there, and I say description, and let's make that a bit wider, and to copy that again, and quantity. And that's kind of, quick step-by-step process of creating a crystal report. And so the other thing we could possibly want to do is put in a total for the open quantity. I can do that. I can right-click on that and I can say insert a summary and put that in there. So now I should see a total of the quantity at the bottom of each supplier. And okay, that's all good. Now the other thing I can do is if I wanted to, I can also put in a drill down on these document numbers. If I want to get a drill down, so when I run this report, I can drill into it. I can go insert picture, and I've got an image of a drill down here. I can put that, so it's our golden arrow. But it's not just that. You've got to then go in to the configuration. Let's say format graphic, hyperlink, and now we're going to put in a formula to get the hyperlink in. So I've got going to cheat a little bit. I've got a little formula there. I can go in and I can put that in there and save and close. So I've done my report. If I want to quickly preview it, I can go into add-ins, and preview in SAP Business One just to see what it looks like. And there it is. Now it's running inside SAP. I can use the arrows and I can go in and open up the underlying purchase order fairly easily. Okay. If I'm happy with that, so I got to give it a title. I can get rid of that. I can insert something else. Insert a text object and give it a name. Open POs, and so on. So once I'm happy with it, I can go into add-ins and I can do a save as, and then I can go in and save it as a report and assign it. So that kind of gives you a very quick overview of writing crystal reports within Business One. So moving on to the next item, which is the web client reporting capabilities. So if you haven't, if you're on version 10, it's worth having a look at the web client purely from a reporting capabilities perspective. I mean, currently it doesn't have the full functional capabilities of the desktop client. It's probably around 50 to 60%, but you've got things like if you open up the sales order list, this is all the open sales orders. You have got some visuals, right? So you can do a chart view, and here I can see, sorry, let me just use a different view, and let's go into the chart view. So I can see a graphical view of my number of open orders by creation date by customer. Or I can do things like these sorts of cards, which show you, various other types of things. You can create all sorts of different types of graphical views of the data within SAP. So this, in particular, is looking at just the data for orders. So that's one area. However, there's also a whole section here called analytics, and in here you can also look at queries that you've written and saved inside Business One, right? So any of the queries you've done, you can go and look at them here. You can execute them from here. Also, there are some reports here. So look at this. This is fairly, graphical. This is showing a lot of different types of cards. And, the beauty of this is that you can go in and add additional cards that are relevant to you, right? So you can just go in plus, and then here's the data sources, right? Where are you getting the data from? Is it a particular transaction? You can even write your own queries and use those to feed into this. So, you've got a lot of flexibility in terms of where the data is coming from. And then you can, create different types of charts, whether it's a line chart, bar chart, pie chart, all sorts, right? So there's a lot of flexibility around this. And the other thing also, so let me just finish this. If I give you another view of this same thing, if I look at this one here, last 4 completed quarter calendars, this one's showing us, comparative of the last 4 quarters in terms of sales. Then, you got the same thing by customer group. Then you got the same thing by salesperson. Then you got the same thing by products, top products, and so on. So you can create additional bits of criteria in here. That's purely relevant to what you want to do, and it's fairly intuitive. It's reading data live, and so yeah. Again, if you are currently using version 10, then it's worth looking at the capabilities of the web client purely just on the reporting front. And again, we've done some very detailed webinars about the web client and its capabilities on our YouTube channel. All right. So moving along, I think the next topic we had is an overview of the HANA reporting capabilities. So, this is only for those who are using HANA. The main reporting capability in HANA is the Excel-based report and interactive analysis. Okay, so I'm not going to go do a live demo. I'm just giving you a couple of screenshots here. One, the Excel interactive analysis essentially is a pivot table, right? You can access data directly from the SAP Business One database and generate your own pivots. And these are predefined data sets that are available for you to hook into. So, in this case, it's just a report showing sales by customer. And so, there's a number of dimensions and values that are available out of the box standard. So that's the interactive analysis. All right, it's more for ad hoc reporting. You want to, just go in and drill down and check what's going on. The other one is the Excel report. Now, in this case, this is more of a formatted report. You've written something and you want to execute and you want to get it in a predefined form. In this case, it's a purchase analysis report, but you can write all sorts of reports and save these and then run them. So not too dissimilar to how you'd write a crystal report and then run it each time and get an output on screen. In this case, the output is in Excel, which may be more, more useful for those who want to do some further analysis of that data. And so that concludes the topics that I wish to cover in this session. We're now going to hand over to Jacinta for her to talk about the advanced reporting capabilities with Power BI. Jacinta, over to you.
Thanks, Ketan. And hi, everyone. So I just wanted to introduce myself and also make all of you aware, if you weren't already, that we have a business intelligence team here at FUJIFILM MicroChannel. I'm a senior consultant. I've been on the team 2.5 years. I've been working with Power BI for about 6.5 years. And what we have developed that I'm going to demonstrate for you today is a plug and play Power BI sales dashboard that will connect to your SAP data. And it's kind of an out of the box solution that, that we've prepared to be able to offer with minimal implementation time, like maybe 3 days implementation. And the benefits of that in terms of all the beauty of Power BI and all the data visualizations. So I want to show you that. I think the best way to demonstrate any of these reporting is to actually see it in a live demo. So I'm just going to hop onto the demonstration and show you, and then I'll talk to what it is and what we've done and what's available. And and then after that, if we've got any questions. Sorry, I'm just not sure that I've shared the correct screen. Ketan, can you just confirm?
Yes. Yes, I can see the Power BI, yes.
Awesome, thank you.
Dashboard. Yeah.
Thanks for that. Just needed to double check. All right, so what we've got here is very similar to what Ketan's been showing in terms of obviously a lot of the sales analysis of sales invoices, customers, items, sales orders, delivery notes, and invoices is the underlying data set that we've loaded in this model. What the benefit is of Power BI is really that automatic access to the data, and you can update the data and set that on regular timeframe updates. But you know, the beauty is the advanced analytics and the interactivity. So, and also the time intelligence works really well in Power BI in terms of being able to filter for year to date, this year, last year, etc. It just makes building the reports a lot easier. And what we've kind of packaged here is we've set one up with some demo slides or pages with different aspects of visualizations, which I will run through, but it's really, we've connected that data model in the background. So some of those things Ketan was just showing about filtering by item groups or, you know, customer groups, etc. All of that's already preloaded into the back end of this data model that sits in Power BI, and that's where we've joined up all the data. So really, you know, if you're interested in this, then you can kind of take this and then leverage off it based on the existing skills that you have. And we understand that some people are probably already on the Power BI journey, or maybe, you know, advanced in Power BI, or haven't even started with Power BI yet. So, you know, we're kind of available to help with all of your Power BI questions and reporting, but also we want to be able to show you something that you could just start with if you haven't already jumped on the Power BI train, which is, you know, it's great and it's fabulous, and, you know, I can't talk highly enough about it. So I think, you know, rather than me talking, we've only got a limited time frame today, unfortunately. So I think I'm just going to quickly do a bit of a quick demo. So the sales dashboard here, if you haven't seen Power BI before, what it does really well is this interactivity. So this has got some headline call out cards regarding sales year to date versus last year. It's color coded with conditional formatting. So this red immediately is visually telling us that we're behind last year to date. We've got, you know, GP, we've got this month, we've got some call out cards over here with regards to open orders, open delivery notes. You can have this same analysis obviously for the procurement and purchasing side, but for this one here, we've just focused on sales. A couple of, you know, analysis tables with this conditional formatting and highlighting with regards to top 5 customers and items. But say, for example, here, if you're interested in what's going on in New South Wales, then if I select New South Wales, then all the other visuals on the page kind of update. You know, if we've got a blank there, it means they don't have any open sales orders. But it's the interactivity in Power BI that can make the analysis, you know, so much more intuitive and just dynamic in terms of being able to really interrogate the data and understand patterns and trends. So that's a dashboard page there. We've got an alternative view because some people, you know, some people don't or prefer the tree visuals, some people prefer line graphs and charts. Once you have this pack, it's really easy once you've got a visual and once you've got the data and what you call the DAX or the formulas, which is things like the count, the sales and the, you know, percentages, etc. It's a lot easier to, you know, leverage an existing page and then just kind of redesign it. So, you know, don't get too concerned if you don't like line charts or if you don't like trees, if you prefer donuts or pies or whatever your preference is for visualizations. You know, Power BI is extremely customizable in terms of making things visually look the way that you want them to look. If you've got a color scheme for your business, you can drop in your logo, you can update the color scheme, all of those sorts of things. I won't go into too much detail, but you know, the possibilities are endless. So that's just some alternative views. This is an analysis by sales rep page. So in this demo data, you know, we've only got that many sales reps, but we can do an analysis year on year. I haven't got budget data loaded into this sample data, but it's important to note that if you have your budget data in something like an Excel SharePoint file or another database or something, then the beauty of Power BI is you can leverage and bring in all sorts of different various data sets. So you can have this data model, which has got your SAP, which is automatically updating, but you can also have Excel that updates, I don't know, overnight, or you can have that on a more regular update schedule if that's where you load your budgets or your sales targets or your monthly targets. You can bring in your website traffic or Google Analytics data. You can bring in CRM, Salesforce. So yeah, it really is endless. So you can have, so whilst we saw some of the reports from Ketan that you can build in Crystal or Web Client, that's, I think, just SAP data. The beauty here is that you can combine various data sets on top of your SAP data if you want to. And specifically, I see that a lot with a lot of my clients where they might have the underlying ERP is where the actuals are coming from, but their budgets are coming from an Excel template. That's fine. You can combine all that and bring all that in and do the comparison and analysis here in Power BI. So just so I'm highlighting here sales versus last year, but obviously you can also have budget as well. And yeah, and then visually here, again, with the conditional formatting and the data bars, you can analyze and visually see exactly what's happening in terms of best performers, etc. But then you can also like drill down. So here, if we just want to focus on gym, gym selling predominantly these item groups, we can drill down a layer to see exactly what the items are. Or if we wanted to, we could drill down on the hierarchy to see that roll up by item group and see the total by group. Over here, similarly for customers, we can see that Jim here is selling to these customers. And, sometimes it can do the shading when you're using these charts and you can get a bit lost. So every visual here has got this little filter icon and you can just hover over it and see exactly what's happening on that particular visual. So I've got a filter on this page, so it's just this current financial year. And that there's nothing in the future. And then if you want to drill down again over here, if we just want to interrogate on this, we can drill down to the next level. You can see I've kind of got multiple things going on now. So you can get a bit, you can go down the rabbit hole a bit in Power BI. So the way I design my dashboards is the logo is always like a reset button. So if you click the logo there, it's just cleared all the filters back to the way they were. You can also use a reset button here to clear every single page. But just really quickly, and I don't have a lot of time today, but this is just to give you a very high level overview to see what's possible with SAP coming into Power BI. So this, I think Ketan had an example there of maybe some top 3 clients or something. This one here is top items, top customers, and it's dynamic. So I've just got this slicer over here. So you might want to look at the top 20. It can get a bit busy. So you just want to focus on the top 5. In Power BI, if you're not aware, you can always export a particular visual into like a focus mode, just so so you can interrogate that a little bit more, or you could have a whole page with just that if you want. I mean, you can customize it any way you want, which is great. I've introduced some ranking logic here, and as you can see with the conditional formatting, we can see the ranking movement on last year. This is just based on sales, but you could have it based on margin, percentage, or margin. Whichever way you want to slice and dice your data, it's all available in the underlying model. So visually here we can just see, say for the top 5 customers that, items rather, this one here, that's the same, whereas, this one here was obviously number 1 last year. We've got the rank over there. So this one's dropped, which plays obviously with the negative percentage variance. So it's just another way visually, I think, to be able to analyze and to be able to understand exactly what is happening for a combination here. So this is items, we can see who's buying them, what the customers are. Same page with the customer lens, top customers, you can see the top customers ranking versus last year, and then an analysis of those customers and what they're buying. Again, it works interactively. So if I choose that customer, then this over here is now filtered for just that customer. So the top 10 trends, so this is kind of like if you've got quite a lot of history data in your system and you want to analyze trends over a number of years, you can kind of see which customers are moving up and down and which items are moving up and down, what the trend is and their ranking over, X amount of years that you've got in your data set. And this one here is a bit busy with all the data, but if I just want to focus on one particular item, then you can see that item's customer trends over whatever the data is in your data set. Or you could filter that for this year or last year, etc. And then I can see here, I've just put a note in that again, we can drill down, you can drill down on these and right click and drill through and see details. Open sales orders, so it's pretty explanatory. This data set seems to have quite a lot open because it's a demo data. Hopefully you won't have that many open, but you can drill down and you can see it by individual date. Again, with the cross filtering, we can see this customer, how many have they got past due. This is some details here. It's got a summary by sales rep to see who's got overdue, open orders, past due, what's coming up, future orders by due date. So this one here, the focus on this page is open sales orders, both future and past due. Similarly, this is like open documents. So say, for example, if you also had your AP data in here, you could have up here, you could have your AR documents, your AP documents. Oh, sorry, that's account match, that's value. But so here you can see where the highest value is, it cross filters, or you could just look at a particular customer and look at that particular customer's open, you could look at a particular item. So I think the beauty of Power BI versus some of the legacy, more static reports is just that interactivity and how dynamic it can be based on all the various filters that you can apply at various different levels of the data to really analyze that data on the fly. This one here is a monthly analysis, which is just a trend over time, by customer, by item, by sales rep. And I didn't show you, I don't think I meant to show you back here on the dashboard. So say, for example, if we wanted to know more about this PC sales year to date, actually you used to right click, now you can just hover over it and it'll pop up and then you can drill through. So we can drill through that $20,000 for the PCs and see, apologies, I put that filter on and didn't take it off. There we go. See our $20,000 and see all the individual line transactions, all the additional details, any journal entries, the status, the sales rep, all of the underlying data is there available that I've just dropped into that visual, but basically all of their master data for items, customers and AR is available within this report. And just a summary here of the mapping of the item groups, the customers. You can do a count by state, you can do a count by sales rep. All of that information is available and it's sitting in this model that we've kind of got prepared, ready to go out of the box.